Hey guys, this is my first online art class, so bear with me on how we're going to do all this. This is the first project, so we may have to tweak it a little bit as I do not have the best video equipment, but I'm working with what I have. So the first project we're going to do is an under the sea project, and then I'm going to show you kind of a bonus lesson at the end with something that you can do that's also pretty similar. But the first thing you're going to need is your paper here, your different size paintbrushes. I've got one that's about 1 inch, 1/2 inch, and then 2 smaller ones for some details. And then you're going to need dark blue, light blue, white, and black, and that's all. So we're going to start in the middle of the page with white and just a little dab of the light blue. It doesn't have to be perfectly in the middle, but you're going to start making a circle. So it's like a really off-white light blue that's in the middle. And this lesson is going to teach us blending skills, and we're going to make it blend flawlessly. So from there, you're going to make it just a little darker. So you add a little more blue than you did before and go back on top of that. And you can always go back and add a little white, and that's going to help it blend. And if you want it to be even lighter in the middle, you can just keep adding on top of that and coming out. So again, you're going to get darker. I think we're good to not put any more white in there. Then when you want it to get darker than that, you're going to mix just a little bit of the dark blue with a lot of the light blue and do the same thing like you did for the white. See here how it doesn't blend perfectly? You can go back like we did with the white and add some more light blue there. For the next layer, you'll get a little more dark blue than you did before. And again, you just keep getting darker. You might want to lay some newspaper or paper towels, something like that underneath your paper, because it is going to run off the edge like this, and we don't want to get it on anything at home. This will wash out of surfaces a lot easier than will wash out of clothing. So make sure you put on an old t-shirt or something. And once you get to these edges, you can add a tiny dab of black. Black goes a really long way, so we don't want to use too much of it, but we do want to get a dark edge. And it's okay if it gets on your hands. It'll wash out of your hands. And to me, this finished product on this project looks like it's so much harder than it actually is. So that's a good thing. You can brag to your social distancing friends. I'm gonna go back and blend this just a little more. So now you've got this nice blended circle. And in a second, I'm gonna show y'all what we're gonna do next. The next step is gonna require 2 of our smaller brushes. We'll start with this medium small brush, but then we're gonna move on to the smaller one so we can get some good details in there. You'll be using just your black for this step. If you wanna make it a really, really dark navy, you can, but you're gonna want it to be pretty dark because we need a contrast up against the dark edges. You kind of got kind of a gray blue there. But you can use just black if you don't want to venture out into the mixing your colors yet. So we're gonna do seaweed. This is the Under the Sea project. So our seaweed's gonna come out from the edges. And we just wanna do a couple different squiggle lines. You wanna make them go all the way to the edge. And so this perspective is like if you were looking straight down into the water, this is what it would look like. The seaweed is coming up, and in a second we'll add some wildlife too. You can do different things with your seaweed, like if you want to add cool ones, if you want to Google pictures of real seaweed, you can make it very realistic. Get some smaller ones on the edges. You don't want to take over the whole page with your seaweed, because we want to make sure we have lots of room for our wildlife. All right, my seaweed is done. Now I'm going to add the fish and turtles and little bubbles that we're gonna see, and I'm gonna use my smaller brush now. We're still gonna be using this black or the really dark navy that you made. I'll make a little bit more. But again, we want it to be really, really dark. And it's gonna show up so well on this light. That's where the sun's coming in. So there's no rhyme or reason to where you need to put your animals. You can put them wherever you want. You can do a school of fish. You can do just a traditional easy fish like that. You can make them like this with a little fin. You can make them just be little tiny speck fish. There's really no right answer, just whatever y'all like. Just making some tiny little fish there. Maybe a turtle. You can start with a circle for your turtle. And give him a little head. Maybe give him a little neck too. Here's a tail. And just little fins. Probably not my best turtle. We can go over how to draw a better one in just a second. I'm gonna do some more, maybe a jellyfish. He kind of blends into the seaweed over here. I think I'm gonna do another one going this way, like he's swimming down. Not an anatomically correct jellyfish. We're not trying to be exact here. This is just, we want to get a good silhouette of everything. And get some fish going in the other direction. A little baby fish in there. Maybe a couple more. My white is still a little wet right there. You do want to let your background dry pretty much all the way so you don't mix that together. And you can even add some little wildlife down here in the seaweed if you want to. Add some up here. I think my wildlife, my fish are pretty much done. So the last step is going to be the highlights, and it's going to be how the sun is shining down into the water, and the silhouette is going to give off a highlight where the sun is hitting it. So you don't want to add it to every single element in the video, in the artwork, but you do want to add it to most of it. So you're going to need your small brush again, and I do want y'all to let yours dry completely. You can see where mine's still wet a little bit. I want y'all to make sure y'all's is completely dry so that you're not mixing your black and white together. But for time's sake, I'm going to go with it. So you're gonna add it. I kind of like to choose a side so that it shows that the sun is hitting it that way. So I'm gonna choose the left side. That's just what I usually go with. And this is gonna make everything pop. Make sure I get it on that little fish. You can use an even smaller brush than this if you want to. I think I'm gonna grab one. If I can find one. This one has a little better point to it, so you can get a more precise white line. Give Mr. Jellyfish some. And our turtle that we're gonna go back and fix. So see, if you don't let it dry all the way, you're gonna mix your black and white together, and we do not want that to happen. So I'm gonna let that dry and I'll come back to it. Like I said, we don't want to add it to every single element because then that would just be too much and it wouldn't really look like highlighting. But we do want to hit most of the things. So I'll go back and do the rest of my animals and then I'll take a picture at the end. But the last thing you're gonna do with your white is add some bubbles in there. So you can kind of do those sort of like you do these miniature schools of fish. And if you wanna do bigger ones, you can. We don't wanna cover up too much of our background that we worked super hard getting that blended good. And some of the bubbles can cover up the seaweed. We don't want to cover up any of the animals, but we can cover up some of the seaweed. And I'm going to make some really tiny bubbles. Another thing you can do is use this end of your paintbrush and dab it onto your page, and that's gonna give you some really small ones. And they end up looking really good over in the corners on this really dark area. So that's why we wanted to make sure we got the edges really dark. All right, guys, here's your underwater scene. Hey guys, here is another example. If you want to try this out again, you can do it with different colors. And so this one is a sunset instead of under the sea. And we did the same thing here in the middle. It's like white and yellow. So you want a pale yellow. And then you'll use your regular yellow. Add yellow and orange. And then regular orange. And then red. and you'll blend all that together just like we did the blue and white to create this sunset look. And then this is one that I used for a different class. And we were talking about the Sloss furnace, and so this is the water tower there. You can add anything that you want. If you wanted to add some trees, that would be pretty. Some birds, really anything that would be outside in nature. If you're into the lake, maybe Duncan Bridge. Just anything. You could do your house. It doesn't matter. But you'll do it the same way. You'll do the black, and then once the black is dry, you'll add the white details. And it'll be the same concept, and you'll have two different artworks.